The story begins with the party leader telling Chirona that what he had to say was really hard, but before he could finish, Chirona cut him off. She said she thought she knew what he was getting at, that she should probably leave the party. Chirona called herself a total failure as an alchemist. Mashran apologized to Chirona. She knew it would have been easier if everyone had just laughed it off. Her alchemy and her fighting had never gotten better and she was just dead weight. She knew it, so she figured the day would come eventually. She said she needed to retake the aptitude test at the guild. Rain suddenly started pouring down. Chirona could not see anything in the downpour and panicked, not knowing what to do. She slipped and fell. Chirona heard voices calling her name, Chisato. Other voices talked about shaping in pan, dividing things up together with someone called Josan, and making croquettes with vegetables for the staff meal. Chirona's eyes snapped open. She found herself lying in a bed inside a large manor. She asked where she was. A maid noticed she was awake and said thank goodness. Chirona asked who the woman was. The maid explained that Chirona had been brought there 3 days ago by her master. The maid introduced herself as Mamie, the head maid of the manor. Chirona nervously introduced herself. Mamie told her to take it easy and said she would explain everything step by step. First, her master had found Chirona collapsed in the rain and carried her all the way back. Chirona was shocked. Mamie added that it was not unusual for sick people to be brought there, so Chirona should not worry about it. Second, the maids Mamie included had been taking care of Chirona so she could relax. Third, their resident doctor had checked her fever. It was not pneumonia, but being out in the rain combined with stress had given her a high fever. Chirona was surprised to hear it was stress. She thought that she had not realized she was bottling anything up, but maybe deep down she really was at her limit. She was glad it was just a fever. Mamie said they had checked Chirona's belongings just in case and found out she was an adventurer. She told Chirona that no wonder she was so stressed, since just traveling put your life on the line. Chirona said she did not have the strength, so she was useless in fights, and she could only handle cooking and odd jobs. She was almost always left behind. With tears in her eyes, Chirona called herself a pathetically weak excuse for an adventurer. She cried out that she could not even do the alchemy right, that she was nothing but dead weight, and that she was always useless in the party. Mamie looked concerned. Chirona apologized for dumping all of that on someone she had just met. A man's voice told her that everyone had weaknesses, and that she was alive now so she could use that next time. Mamie greeted the man as master and asked how long he had been there. He said he had just arrived. Chirona realized that the incredibly handsome man standing before her was the master who had saved her. She thought his face was so beautiful that the shock and stress flew right out of her head for a second. He reached out and touched her forehead. Chirona yelped. He noted that her temperature was stable, her color was good, and her skin looked fine too. The fever was almost completely gone, but with her injuries she would still need rest. Chirona thanked him, flustered. She wondered if he had just given her a physical exam. He apologized for startling her. Mamie explained that the master had medical training and did not have any bad intentions, so Chirona could relax. Chirona's heart was pounding. Mamie added that the wound was almost completely healed and that Rector-sensei would monitor it. The master acknowledged this. Mamie told the master that even if he was just passing by, he could at least let her know. She teased him, asking if he was worried about Chirona. Mamie said he was such a softie at heart and recalled that when he first brought Chirona in, Mamie had been all over him about how kind he was. The master told Mamie she was getting too familiar. Chirona noticed his ears were bright red. She thought that what people called a tsundere was actually kind of cute in real life. She thanked him for saving her. He told her she did not need to thank him, he just could not walk past someone who was hurt. Mamie added that he was such a softie. She then pointed out that for someone who came empty-handed, something smelled amazing beyond the door. Chirona noticed a good smell. The master had brought food, soup, and bread. He explained that Chirona had been asleep for 3 days straight, so he thought her body might start giving out. Mamie was impressed by his thoughtfulness. Chirona stared wide-eyed at the food. The master said he would head out, noting that he would only make her uncomfortable if he stayed. He told her to focus on getting better for now and that they could talk after that. Chirona was confused about what he meant by talk. Mamie told Chirona that since she had just woken up, she would feed her. Chirona tried to protest, but Mamie put a spoon in her mouth. Chirona ate eagerly. She thought the food was incredibly good. She noted that the broth was carefully made, the cream was incredibly rich, and the vegetables were cooked perfectly, soft enough to fall apart and easy to eat. Chirona declared she was so glad to be alive. She asked if she could have some of the bread too. She took a bite of the bread and found it disgusting, though she forced herself to say it was delicious. Mamie told her she did not have to force herself. Mamie explained that everyone ate the same thing there, nobles and commoners alike. She asked if the bread really tasted that bad. Chirona said commoners' bread was even worse than that. Mamie compared it to the old stories. Chirona recalled a legend about something called the foul bread of famine. Even for the royal family, the taste apparently was not much better, and she had heard it was the same for commoners too. Depending on how faithfully the legend had been passed down, the bread in this world was truly awful. Her post-illness body could barely handle it. Mamie said she would go get Chirona's bath ready and told her to lie down and rest. Chirona apologized for not being able to finish the bread. Mamie said it was fine. Chirona lay in bed thinking. She was currently 16-year-old Chirona Manchuri. In her previous life, she had been a bakery employee from Japan named Amane Chisato. She could not remember how old she had been back then. Those parts of her memory were blacked out. She did not know how she died either. Ever since she had been born into this world, she had never been able to recall her past life, as if those memories were sealed away somewhere. She wondered if the shock from falling had brought those memories back. Unlike Japan, this world had both magic and alchemy. It was a world where fantasy was real. When she was Chisato working at the bakery, she had read so many novels and manga she thought all that knowledge had to be useful here. The guild's aptitude test had said she was an alchemist, but she was always terrible at alchemy. The way she kept failing so unnaturally often felt like there had to be some reason behind it. Now that she had her memories back, she wanted to actually be useful to someone this time. A voice suddenly announced that conditions had been met. Upon Chirona Manchuri regaining the memories of the previous individual, a trigger had activated. It began extracting from suspended alchemy data, deploying and downloading a trait called Happy Alchemy. The trait download was complete, and the navigator system began booting. There was a flash of light. A tiny baby-like creature appeared in a burst of light, screaming for its master. Chirona was stunned and asked what it was. The creature cried out that it had been waiting and waiting for Chirona and was so tired of sleeping for 16 whole years. Mamie rushed in, shocked. Chirona asked who the creature was. It latched onto Chirona crying. She begged it to stop crying and told it someone would hear. It stopped quickly. Chirona introduced herself and asked for the creature's name. It said it did not have a name because it was the master's one and only navigator. Chirona asked it to be more specific and why it kept calling her master. The creature explained that it was the navigator system for a special power only the master could use. Happy Alchemy. Chirona repeated the name in shock. The foul bread of famine was a devastating famine that began 400 years ago and lasted for 100 years. Because of it, most of the proper recipes in the world were lost. Staples like bread and rice had been cooked incorrectly ever since, for centuries. Meanwhile, a puzzled Chirona repeated the words Happy Alchemy to herself. The navigator explained that with the food Chirona made, she could make people happy, just like alchemy. It had been 300 years since the Great Famine, and now the only one who could recreate the proper recipes was Chirona, with her knowledge from another world. Chirona asked why it had to be her. The navigator said it did not know either. The navigator then asked Chirona to give it a name, saying it wanted to be called something cute. Chirona was surprised and started trying out different names. Una, Dina, Riti, Ro. She landed on Roti, explaining that in her old world there was a country where they called bread Roti. Since her job was to make really good bread, she felt it was right to give that name to the one guiding her. The navigator repeated the name happily. The navigator accepted the name, announcing itself as Navigator System, Individual Name, Roti. It declared that initial setup and update were complete. Chirona was confused by those terms. Roti said it was now Chirona's contracted spirit for real and that it looked forward to working with her. A bonus was granted for tutorial completion, including alchemy guidance, infinite storage shelf, and more. There was a knock at the door. The master of the manor entered. He noted that technically it was their first time meeting. He greeted Roti. Chirona introduced herself as Chirona Manchuri. Rector, who had come in with the master, introduced himself as the magic physician for the manor. Chirona greeted him nervously. Rector noticed Roti and asked about the little one. Roti introduced itself as the master's contracted spirit. Mamie burst in and squealed over how cute Roti was, grabbing it excitedly. Chirona was startled and called out to Mamie. Rector told his sister to calm down. Chirona was surprised that they were siblings. Mamie confirmed that Rector was her little brother. She added that Rector and Lord Kyle had been nursed by the same woman when they were babies. Chirona asked what Lord Kyle's full name was, noting that he had never actually introduced himself. Mamie said that was very like him. His full name was Kylesia Disrosarian, but everyone just called him Kyle. He was also the head of one of the most distinguished ducal houses in the entire Celdius kingdom. Chirona was shocked to learn he was someone that important. She cringed thinking back on how casually she had acted around him. Rector told her that her fever was completely gone, and that he had healed her wound with recovery magic, so it should be fine now. She thanked him, amazed at how magic worked. He told her to stay and rest up for a while, and that she would be back on her feet soon. Roti suddenly shouted that the plan was to make bread with Roti first, before going back on the road. Chirona was startled. Rector asked if she had been an adventurer, and if she was planning to go back. Roti declared that it was a contracted spirit for culinary alchemy, and that they were going to make lots of bread together. Chirona scolded Roti for deciding that on its own. Roti asked if that was not what she wanted. Chirona admitted it was not that she did not want to. Rector thought it over. They wanted to make bread, and the manor was starving for decent bread. Roti asked when they could start baking. Rector found it interesting and said it might work out perfectly. He told Chirona that he thought she should work as a baker at the manor. He pointed out that the bread there was frankly terrible, and if she and Roti wanted to bake, it was the perfect place for it. It would be up to Kyle in the end, of course. He said he would talk to Kyle for her and told her to focus on getting better. Chirona asked if that was really okay and said yes eagerly. Chirona was happy, thinking she could repay them for saving her. 3 days later, she was up and in a kitchen uniform. She noted the nice weather and said it was perfect for baking bread. Dr. Rector had spoken to the master about hiring her as a baker. She thought this could completely change her whole life and that she had to do well. Her heart was pounding as she told herself that today's test would decide her future. She entered the kitchen and met Shetlis, the head chef. He said it was nice to finally meet her. He introduced her to Amer, the sous chef, who would be her assistant for the day. Chirona and Rodi introduced themselves. Chirona laid out the ingredients: strong flour, room temperature butter, sugar, salt, eggs, milk, purified water, and yeast. She announced they were going to make bread. Rodi was excited that it was finally happening. Rodi transformed into a mixer. Chirona was shocked. Amer and Shetlis asked what on earth it was. Chirona explained that it was called a mixer, a tool for combining ingredients. Amer was amazed that it turned by itself. Chirona noted that Rodi's transformation ability let her become any machine needed for bread making. Rodi told them to put the ingredients in and that it would mix them up. Amer offered to handle the jam while the mixer was running. Chirona thanked him. Chirona said it was better to have lots of different kinds of jam, so she asked Amer to make blueberry and marmalade while she focused on strawberry jam and the bread itself. Rodi told Chirona to check the dough in 5 more minutes. Chirona noted the dough was a beautiful golden yellow. She said she had added plenty of butter, so these should make amazing butter rolls. Amer was surprised. He asked if it was okay not to wear gloves. Chirona was alarmed and asked if they had done something wrong. Amer said he was just surprised she was touching the dough with her bare hands. Chirona said it was fine and that she had never really thought about it before, but it showed how different their worlds were. Then she tasted the raw dough. Amer was shocked that she was tasting it while it was still raw. Chirona said she was just checking the first batch and confirmed the sweetness and salt were both perfect. Chirona thought to herself that she probably should not be showing off her knowledge too much. But she decided that if she was going to repay them with bread, she did not want to cut corners. She called for Rodi to transform again. Rodi turned into a proofer. Kemer asked why the box. Chirona explained it was for proofing, to make the bread light and fluffy. Amer said the dough could rise on its own, but Chirona said this time they were going for speed. Rodi announced the proofing was done. Chirona checked the dough and said it looked perfect. Amer was stunned at how much the dough had risen. Chirona used a dough scraper to divide the dough. Since she had made a smaller batch, that gave them 15 pieces. She covered them with a damp cloth and let them rest for 15 minutes. She told Rodi to get ready for the second proofing. Shetlis and Amer started punching down the dough, but they were being too rough. Chirona told them to stop and explained the proper technique. Gently push some of the air out without overdoing it. Lightly pat it by hand, fold the round piece of dough into thirds, then roll it into a thin rope about as thick as a finger. She continued explaining the shaping process, starting from the wider side, roll it up and shape it gently, then pinch the dough together with your fingers at the seam. That was the basic form for a butter roll. She moved on to the second proofing, warning that this step was also important and that letting it rise too much would really change how the bread turned out. Shetlis and Amer said the method was completely different from how they had been taught. Shetlis admitted they needed to learn how to make bread the right way and asked if Chirona could teach them. Kyle appeared at the door watching silently. Chirona noticed him and agreed eagerly. The second proofing finished. Kyle had been watching from the doorway, smiling slightly. Chirona applied the egg wash and said they were finally ready to bake. Rodi said the bread would be done in 10 to 15 minutes. Shetlis told Amer to go get Mamie and the others and that he was sure the master would be there soon too. Chirona suddenly noticed Kyle standing there and was startled. She asked how long he had been there. He said for a while and asked if she had not noticed. She apologized. He told her he was not scolding her and complimented her focus, saying it was impressive. Chirona was surprised that he praised her. He thanked her for coming today and said that baby-like voice, meaning Rodi's, was something she would have to explain to him later. Chirona agreed nervously. Rodi announced the bread was done. Chirona pulled the tray out and thought to herself that these loaves were going to decide her future. Chirona thanked everyone for waiting and presented the fresh butter rolls. She told them to try eating it plain first and that afterward they could add jam or whatever they wanted. Kyle said he would go ahead and try it. Chirona thought to herself that this was the first bread she had made since coming to this world. She told herself it was fine and that she was sure it would turn out great. Rodi watched nervously. Kyle took a bite and tore into the bread. He kept eating quietly. Chirona watched him, tense. Kyle said it was delicious. Chirona was shocked. Kyle immediately went back for more, dipping the bread heavily into jam. Chirona thought he was at it again and said that was way too much jam. Kyle kept eating eagerly. Shetlis was also eating and reacting with shock. Chirona asked Kyle if he was okay. Kyle's plate was completely empty. He quickly composed himself and said this would not do, that he had enjoyed it way too much. Chirona said she was glad he liked it and brought over more rolls, saying they also had these. Kyle told Chirona she should have one. Chirona was confused and asked if he did not like it. Kyle quickly said that was not it. He said bread this good, everyone was going to want more, and he thought she should eat some too. Rodi agreed. Rector snapped at Kyle, telling him he was impossible to read and that if he had already decided, he should just say it. Kyle told Rector to stop hitting him. Rector said he could not help it because Kyle was really frustrating when he got like this. Rector pointed out that Chirona was waiting too. Kyle finally said fine, he would give his answer. Kyle told Chirona she passed, he was giving her permission to work in this manor. Chirona was overjoyed and thanked him. Chirona thought that for the first time in this world, she had actually done something right. Someone had said her bread was delicious. She thought she was so happy. Kyle said bread like this could be served to royalty, but first he wanted it to be a staple at their own table. Chirona eagerly agreed. Roti asked if they had passed. Chirona confirmed they did and thanked Roti. Roti cheered and promised to work super hard too. Roti told everyone they should eat some. Shetlas agreed that they should all try it. They thanked Chirona for the food. Everyone began eating. Mamie said she had never had bread like this before and asked if it was really this soft. Another person said it was so good. Chirona told them to sit and eat together. She was happy. Chirona took a bite and said it was delicious. She thought this bread was nothing like what she had eaten in this world so far. The taste, the texture, everything was different. She realized it was Japanese-style bread. Back in her previous life, she had taken bread like this for granted. She kept eating and thought it was too good. Chirona recalled how she had almost died back there. She thought she would never taste anything this good ever again. If Kyle had not saved her, if she had not met Roti, none of this would have happened. Chirona held Roti tight and said with tears that she was so glad she was alive. Kyle told her that as long as she was alive, there was still tomorrow. Kyle revealed that back when he was an adventurer, he had faced danger more times than he could count, and every single time that was exactly what he had thought. Chirona was stunned and asked if he had been an adventurer. Kyle confirmed he had. He told her to just call him Kyle from now on and said that noble or not, he was still just a person. Chirona called him by name for the first time and thanked him for saving her. Kyle simply said yeah. He then asked her to tell him her story. Chirona revealed that she was a reincarnator. Roti was shocked. Kyle said so Chirona too. He then mentioned that he never knew his parents. Chirona explained that she had been abandoned at an orphanage and grew up there. As she got older, she wanted to be independent, so she became an adventurer. But even after joining a party, she was useless, basically just dead weight. Right after she left the party, most of her past life memories came back. After that, the rest was history. Kyle concluded it was an acquired special ability and said that since she was a reincarnator, it was not impossible. Chirona was surprised and said she was not the only one. Kyle told her that he and a childhood friend, a former party member, were also reincarnators. Roti added that it was a guide with its own will. Kyle acknowledged Roti as a spirit. He then said that for now he would officially hire the two of them as bakers for the manor. Chirona and Roti happily accepted. Mamie welcomed them. Everyone celebrated, welcoming Chirona and Roti to House Rosarian. Roti cried, telling Kyle it was so happy. Chirona comforted Roti. That night, Chirona said a lot had happened that day and that Roti must be tired too. Roti suddenly perked up and told Chirona to look at something. Roti called out for the status screen to open. Chirona was startled. Chirona said it looked just like a screen from a game. Roti showed her the status categories, point allocation, and item list. Roti explained that it was Chirona's very own special ability and that other people could not see it. Chirona said they needed to sleep early so they could prepare the dough and other things the next morning. She was excited that she could really start working now. Roti was already falling asleep. Chirona said goodnight to Roti and Roti sleepily said goodnight back. Chirona thought that for the people who gave her this second chance in life, she would give it her all and would not be useless. Rector visited Kyle and asked if he had calmed down yet. Kyle said yeah, finally. Rector scolded Kyle, saying that eating 15 rolls was way too many. Rector said he was happy that someone who used to hate bread could eat it now, but eating that much was a whole different problem. Kyle said he would limit himself next time. Kyle guessed that bread was not the only reason Rector had come. Rector confirmed it, saying a letter had just been delivered. Rector added that he was a doctor and that he was allowed to worry about Kyle. Kyle asked if it was about that. Rector said he had told that person about Chirona after all. It sounded like they would be arriving soon. Kyle was surprised. Rector said he could not blame them. To them, Chirona might be the little sister they had been trying to find. Roti woke Chirona up in the morning, calling out to her repeatedly. Chirona groaned and asked what was happening. Roti told her it was time to get up. Chirona realized it was already morning and panicked, saying she had to hurry and bake everyone's bread. She grabbed Roti and rushed out. Roti asked what they were making today. Chirona said they would first bake sandwich loaves and then make sandwiches. She explained that sandwiches were perfect for busy mornings and that you could stuff them with anything. She said they would use egg salad and yesterday's jam to make egg sandwiches and jam sandwiches. Roti said those sounded tasty. Chirona started on the sandwich bread. She cut the dough into big pieces and gently rounded each one. She let them rest, then shaped them into logs and rolled them up like spirals. She greased the loaf pans with oil and set 3 pieces of dough in each. Once all 6 were in, she tapped them lightly to even out the height. She did the second rest using a quick rise time shortening skill. She put them in the oven and told Roti she was counting on her. While the bread baked, Chirona got the egg salad ready. Roti announced the bread was done. Chirona was excited, saying they looked perfect. Meanwhile, she had finished the egg salad boiling, chopping, mashing, seasoning with mayonnaise, salt, and other things. Chirona said it was time to finish up and asked Roti to cool the loaves. She explained that with Roti's magic cooling the loaves, she would slice the bread and butter one side of each slice. She noted that since these were not for eating right away, she could not let them get too soggy. Even that small step made the sandwiches taste much better. Chirona assembled the sandwiches, drained lettuce, fillings, and more bread. She was relieved they had a serrated knife at the manor. She noticed she had leveled up. Chirona asked Roti what happened when she saved up the points she got from leveling up. Roti explained that once she put those saved up points into each stat, she would unlock new functions. Roti could transform into all kinds of things, and she could get brand new tools too. That way Chirona could do lots more things. Chirona realized that if they kept baking and leveling up, she could make all kinds of bread and have everyone try them. Chirona said that was exactly right and cheered. She imagined making croissants and other breads and wondered if she could even make some of them. Roti said Chirona looked so happy. They celebrated together in the kitchen. Suddenly someone reached through the window. Chirona sensed something and shouted for the person to show themselves. Roti yelled that they were not allowed in. There was an impact. The intruder hit a barrier that Roti had put up. The person said it hurt and complained that they had put up a barrier. Two men appeared. One told the other that now they had been found. The other said it was not his fault. They apologized for scaring Chirona and Roti. One of them said he was not suspicious. Chirona and Roti were stunned and asked who they were. The first man introduced himself as the Crown Prince, Shrisen Arnold Rimiel. He told them to call him Shura. Roti said he was very suspicious. Shura told Chirona that she was not giving them much to go on. Roti was offended. The second man introduced himself as Max. His full name was Max Yushin Shi. He said they were friends of Kyle's and told Chirona to relax. He asked for her name. Chirona introduced herself. Roti introduced itself too. Max asked if Roti was a spirit. Shura explained that Kyle had told them all about Chirona yesterday and that he just had to come see for himself. Max said he got dragged along. Max looked at the sandwiches and said the bread looked incredible. Shura got excited and said he wanted to eat it. Chirona offered to let them try some. She said she was going to make extra anyway, and if they did not mind, they were welcome. Roti asked if she was sure. Chirona said that if someone told her they wanted to try her bread, there was no way she could say no. She told them her job was to bake good bread, and to please go ahead. Shura thanked her. Max took a bite and was shocked, asking what this ridiculously good bread was. Shura also ate a piece and was stunned. Max said the flavor was just like the bread from the world he was in before. Chirona was confused and asked what he meant. Max said that Kyle trusted Chirona, so he would just say it. He was a reincarnator. He said that even though he looked like this now, in his previous life he was a Japanese office worker named Gomiyuka. Chirona was shocked and asked if he was a reincarnator too. Max noticed her reaction and asked if she was also one. Chirona confirmed it, explaining that in her previous life she was a Mane Chisato. She said she had only remembered recently and that she had worked at a bakery. Max said that explained it. Bread this good just did not exist in this world. He said Kyle had already told him about her. Roti said it had heard about reincarnators from the other spirits but did not think they would meet one this soon. Chirona agreed. Max declared that meant they were already friends now. He said he would call Chirona Chi since it was nice and friendly. Chirona nervously agreed. Max then said he had a favor to ask. He said he would like it if his family could taste this amazing bread too and asked if Chirona would mind if he took some home. Chirona eagerly agreed and said she would make some up right now. Chirona came back with a box of sandwiches. Shura thanked her. Max said that so they would not get in the way of her baking, they would head out. As they started to leave, Kyle appeared and stopped them. He called out to Chirona. Shura greeted Kyle casually. Kyle sighed and addressed the two of them. He told them to use the front door and asked how many times he had to tell them. Chirona thought it was funny that was what he was mad about. Kyle scolded Shrisen specifically and asked if he had bothered Chirona. Shura teased that Kyle had such an angry face and that he was scary. Shura said he did not want to get yelled at anymore and ran off saying he was leaving. Kyle told him to get back there. Shura called out a goodbye to Chirona and Roti and told Kyle he would see him too. Kyle was irritated and said Shrisen just did whatever he wanted. Chirona noticed they had forgotten their bread. Roti said she would go deliver it and flew off with the basket. Chirona said Roti was gone already. Kyle remarked that they really were like a storm blowing through. Kyle asked Chirona if they had done anything to her. Chirona said no, she was fine. Kyle said good, then he would not worry. He noticed her face was red and asked if she was sure she was okay. Chirona insisted she was fine. Kyle leaned in and touched her forehead, saying it did not feel like she had a fever. He guessed she must still be feeling the after effects of her injuries. Chirona stammered. Chirona thought to herself about how earlier Kyle had called her by her name. She said she was fine and that she needed to go after Roti. She ran off insisting she was totally okay. Kyle watched her go and thought to himself that she really did remind him of the old days. 16 years ago, in the aftermath of the devouring famine, Many ancient recipes had been lost and destroyed. It was also during a time when the kingdom of Seldius and its neighboring Soan Empire were locked in a cold war. Queen Axia of the Seldius kingdom was holding a baby. Kyle as a young boy visited Queen Axia. She said it had been a long time since he had come by and told him to come closer. She asked if he was there to see the baby. Kyle called her auntie. She told him to stop being so formal since no one else was there and to just call her like he always did. Kyle asked if the baby was the newborn princess. Axia confirmed it and told him to take a look. The baby smiled and grabbed Kyle's finger. Kyle was stunned. Axia said it looked like the baby liked Kyle. She told him the baby's name was Chirona. Kyle repeated the name. Axia said she was adorable, and Kyle noted that she was so small. Shrisen, also a young child, came running in and called out for Kyle to come play. Axia noted that even though Shrisen was her little sister's child, they were nothing alike. Kyle said he did not want to play. Axia pointed out that he said that but still came over to play with his cousin. She called Kyle dishonest. Kyle denied it. Shrisen was all excited, saying he was going to play with Kyle. Axia said Kyle was with the king right now. Kyle sighed. Axia noticed something. A group of armored soldiers suddenly burst in. Kyle was shocked. The lead soldier addressed Queen Axia of the Seldius kingdom and told her she was coming with them along with the child. Kyle demanded to know who they were. The soldier said it did not matter who they were and ordered her to hand over the baby. Axia told Kyle to listen to her. She said she would handle things there. She told him to take the baby and run, and then to meet up with the castle guards and tell them what happened. Kyle looked at the crying baby. Axia said the child was just a baby and could not survive on her own yet. But right now it was too dangerous to keep her around the royal castle or the capital. She told Kyle to take her somewhere safe outside the country, somewhere far away, somewhere she would be cared for and loved. The soldiers shouted that they were trying to get the child out and ordered their men to stop them. Axia told Kyle to go and called him Kylesia. She yelled at him to run. Kyle hesitated. Axia called out for him to wait. The soldiers ordered them to not move and to capture them. Axia spread her arms and blocked the soldiers' path, declaring that no one would get past her. She said she would protect them. Kyle cried out for his aunt. Axia cast a barrier spell to protect Kyle and the baby as they escaped. She told Kyle to take care of the child for her. Kyle ran with the baby through the destruction. Kyle recalled that Axia had stayed behind so they could escape and had cast a barrier spell to protect them. He remembered her telling him to take the child somewhere safe outside the country, somewhere she would be cared for and loved. Kyle, holding the baby tightly, told himself he had to protect Axia's child, Chirona. A man found Kyle and called out to the princess. He asked if Kyle was unharmed. Kyle asked who he was. The man told him to be at ease and said he served the Seldius kingdom. Kyle cried out about the queen. The man told him it would be all right and that he was safe now. Kyle reflected that it had been 16 years. After they were rescued, he was told Charona had been left at an orphanage somewhere. But one day, Charona suddenly disappeared from the orphanage. Kyle became an adventurer to search for her. But even after 2 years, he still could not find her. He had to stop because it was time for him to succeed the Duckle House. Kyle thought about Charona's hair. She had the same beautiful green hair as Her Majesty, his aunt. He wondered if Chirona was doing well and just hoped she was somewhere safe and peaceful. Kyle was heading back when he noticed someone collapsed on the ground. He thought it was a traveler. Then he saw the person's hair color and was shocked. Kyle rushed to Rector in a panic, carrying Chirona in his arms. Rector asked what was wrong and why Kyle was panicking. Rector noticed Chirona and asked if this person was her. Kyle begged Rector to save the princess, to save Chirona. Rector told him to calm down and said that from what he could see, her wounds were not that deep. Kyle declared that he would not let Chirona go again, not this time. He said this time he would be the one to protect her. Roti returned to the manor, announcing that she had properly delivered the bread to Big Sis. Chirona thanked Roti and told her she did great. Kyle came over and patted Roti's head. He asked Chirona if she was okay. Chirona said she still could not wrap her head around what Shrisen had done earlier. Kyle gently touched Chirona's face. Chirona's heart raced. She told herself it was nothing, that Lord Kyle was just worried about her, that was all. She thought about how at first she thought Kyle was a scary person because of his blank face, but Kyle was open and kind. He believed what she told him. He acknowledged her. Above all, the way he ate the bread she made like it was the best thing he had ever tasted made her so happy. Chirona decided she wanted to see Kyle smile like that again. She figured that if Kyle liked sweets, she would make that for his requested snack. She told Roti they should make even more kinds of bread together. Roti eagerly agreed. At the royal castle, Shrisen came home announcing his arrival. The king immediately threw a paperweight at him. Shrisen dodged it and said it was dangerous. The king called him back and Shrisen called out to his father. A servant told the king that Prince Shrisen was only human, and that even with his accelerated healing, he would still get a few broken bones. Shrisen remarked that for a king, his father was still such a thug. The king was identified as Einsbark, king of Seldius. The servant said Shrisen was just a little lively and that it was like father like son. Einsbark yelled at Shrisen for going ahead and meeting with his daughter without him. Schraisen said there was nothing they could do about that but that he had brought a little souvenir. He opened the box of sandwiches. The king was shocked and asked if Chirona had made them. Schraisen told him to try one. The king took a bite. Schraisen declared that the recipes lost during the devouring famine might make a comeback. The king was stunned. Schraisen told him it was incredible. Schraisen told the king that the recipes lost in the devouring famine might really come back. The king asked what he was talking about. Schraisen explained that 400 years ago, there was a massive famine that nearly wiped everyone out, called the devouring famine, and that anyone born in this world was taught about it from childhood. The king said he already knew that much and asked what it had to do with Chirona's bread. Schraisen laughed, asking if eating his daughter's bread had made the king so happy it scrambled his brains. The king told him to shut it. Schraisen explained that most bread recipes were lost in that famine, but thanks to Chirona's bread they might be able to bring them back. The king said that was still pretty vague. He told Schraisen to shut it again. The king declared that at the memorial party they were holding for the late queen he wanted Chirona's bread to be served. Schraisen asked if this was a royal order and accused the king of abusing his power. The king said he had been craving Chirona's bread as well. He told Schraisen to go tell Chirona to come to the castle in a few days. Schraisen acknowledged the order. Chirona thanked everyone for coming to the kitchen. One of the kitchen staff said they should be the ones thanking her for the opportunity to learn. Mamie said she was just there to watch. Chirona announced that today she would like to make choco cornets. The staff repeated the name confused. Chirona smiled and confirmed it. They were excited. Rhodey was handling the first proof. Chirona explained the dough was already made and rising, so while they waited they would make the chocolate cream, which was the heart of a choco cornet. Mamie said she could not wait. Chirona instructed them to pour milk into a pot and heat it until just before it boiled. Then turn off the heat and add the chopped chocolate bit by bit, melting it with a wooden spatula. She put sugar and other ingredients into a separate bowl and slowly poured in the pot mixture while whisking it together. Rector appeared and asked what Chirona was making today. Chirona greeted him happily and said she could not resist the smell. Chirona asked if Max had come too and if he was by himself this time. Max showed up angrily, telling them not to assume he was always stuck babysitting that idiot. Rector told Chirona not to mind them and to keep going. Chirona nervously agreed. Chirona continued making the chocolate cream. She strained everything through a sieve, then poured it into a bigger pot and heated it on medium so it would not burn. She added unsalted butter and a splash of liqueur for aroma, then stirred it well. She set the pot over a bowl of ice water and covered it with gauze instead of a lid or wrap. She announced the chocolate cream was done. Someone tried to sneak a taste, and Rhodey scolded them to control themselves. Chirona explained that taking your time made the chocolate smoother and much better. Max said it was unbelievable that she went to all that trouble just to make chocolate. Roti announced the first proof was done. Chirona said it was time to shape them. Roti called out the metal tools. Cornet molds appeared. Rector and the kitchen staff said they had never seen tools like those before and had no idea how to use them, noting the weird shape. Chirona told them to try holding one. One of them said it looked like a seashell. Chirona explained that the cornet bread they were making was shaped like a little seashell cone, and that was its trademark. Chirona explained the process. She said they would wrap the dough around the horn-shaped molds and then bake it. First they rolled the dough out into a long rope, then wound it around the mold from the thick bottom upward. After baking they would pull the cornet molds out and pipe the chocolate cream into the hollow. Someone said that was pretty unusual bread. Chirona told them they were not done yet. Chirona explained that the chocolate cream from before was not for dipping, it went inside the bread. The staff were amazed, saying they never would have thought of that. Chirona said that before they baked they needed the second proof, but it took forever so they would cut it short with time magic. Rhodey used time compression. Rhodey announced the second proof was complete. Chirona told Rhodey to start baking. Rhodey transformed into oven bake mode. Rhodey announced that everything was baked. Chirona said they baked up perfectly. They commented on the smell of fresh bread and said it looked delicious. Chirona said it was time for the final step and asked Rhodey to cool them down. Rhodey used cooling magic. Chirona said they looked great and that it was time to fill them with cream. She squeezed the chocolate cream into the bread. Chirona piped lots of the chocolate cream into the cooled bread and announced the choco cornets were done. She told everyone to have them while they were fresh. Rector said so this was a choco cornet. Max said he had not had one since his previous life and that it made him so happy he could cry. Shitless commented on the weird shape. Someone took a bite and said it was so good. They noted the chocolate was soft but stayed put instead of running everywhere. Chirona was asked which end you were supposed to eat cornets from. The chocolate dripped a bit. Someone said they were delicious but tricky to eat neatly. Chirona admitted she was not actually sure either. She was relieved that everyone was enjoying them. Max called them all amateurs and declared he was their senior when it came to choco cornets. Chirona asked why he was acting like such an expert. Max said he would show them the proper way to eat a choco cornet and launched into what he called a brief history of its love and worship. Rector asked if they had tea. Rhodey said Max was too noisy. Max told them to listen when people were talking. Mamie commented they were really lively today. Kyle appeared watching from behind. Chirona said she would love for Lord Kyle to taste them too. Max teased Chirona, asking whose face she had just been picturing. Chirona was startled. Max said he got it and that he picked up on that kind of thing fast. Chirona got flustered and denied it, saying she had just heard that Lord Kyle liked sweets, that was all. Mamie reacted fondly. Max said it was fine and asked if Chirona wanted to make Kyle happy. Chirona stammered. Max told Chirona that if she asked him, he would say Kyle had taken quite a liking to her. Chirona was shocked and denied it. She protested that she was not just not a noble around there, she was literally an orphan, and that they were from completely different worlds. Max acknowledged that in this world, class differences were not exactly something you could ignore. Max said social rank was a pain in any world. He then suggested Chirona could have some kindly noble family adopt her. Chirona said it was not that simple, and besides, after they had saved her, how could she ask for something like that? Max said he did not think that mattered nearly as much as she thought. Max told Chirona he was rooting for her. Chirona told him to come on. Max laughed and pointed out she was already blushing. Rhodey asked if Chirona had a fever and offered to cool her down. Chirona told Rhodey not to join in too. Chirona complained that everyone just decided whatever they wanted. She thought to herself that Max was right in this world. Class differences were huge, and someone like her, a commoner, would almost never have any connection to Lord Kyle. She believed that even now Lord Kyle was only keeping an eye on her because he felt responsible for the person he happened to save. Rhodey asked if Chirona was alright. Chirona smiled and said she was not mad. She decided to bring the cornets to Lord Kyle. Rhodey agreed happily. She went to find Kyle, and he noticed her. Chirona ran into Mamie. Mamie asked what she was doing there and noticed something smelled delicious. Chirona said she was thinking of bringing the Choco cornets to Lord Kyle. Mamie said they looked delicious. She told Chirona that the master of the house was out right now. Chirona was surprised. Mamie said she was sure Kyle would be delighted though. She suggested they leave the cornets in his study since it was the first place he went when he came back from work. Chirona thought it was a good idea and agreed to do that. Chirona thanked Mamie and told her there was more of the bread in the kitchen so she should help herself. Mamie was pleased. Chirona entered Kyle's study and said, "Excuse me." Chirona and Roti were amazed by the study. It was full of books everywhere. Roti pointed out there were books all over the place. Chirona got excited and nearly knocked over a stack of books. She caught them just in time, relieved it was a close call. She told herself to watch where she was going. Something fell and slid across the floor. Chirona picked it up. It was a portrait of a woman with long hair. Chirona stared at the woman in the portrait. Roti said the lady looked like Chirona. Chirona was not sure. Roti pointed out the hair was the same color. Chirona thought something about the woman in the portrait bugged her. Chirona wondered who the woman could be. She told Roti they should head back quickly. She left the cornets on Kyle's desk. She looked at the portrait one more time and thought about the woman who looked like her, wondering who she could be. Chirona was outside hanging laundry with Roti. She sighed. She was still thinking about the portrait she had found in Kyle's study. Roti had said the woman looked just like Chirona. Chirona thought about how beautiful the woman was and wondered who she was and what she was to Lord Kyle. Shura suddenly appeared and startled Chirona, asking what was wrong and saying she looked awfully serious. Chirona was shocked and called out to him. Shura greeted her casually and told her to just call him Shura. Chirona asked what brought him there. Shura said he was kind of hoping she would call him Big Brother. Chirona was confused by the word later and was caught off guard. Shura said they could talk about that later. He said he came by because he had something for her. He used spatial magic. Chirona and Roti saw an envelope appear. Shura said it was an invitation to a memorial banquet for the late queen. Chirona asked what it was for. Shura explained that the banquet was for the queen and that it was held every year on the queen's birthday. Nobles from across the kingdom attended to reaffirm their ties to the royal family. Chirona asked why someone like her would be invited to something like that. Shura explained that the main attraction of the banquet was the food and that this year her baking was the star of the menu. Shura told Chirona that her baking had been officially approved by the king. Chirona was stunned. Shura explained that he remembered how he had taken some of her bread home so his family could try it, and that he had made his father eat it on the spot. Chirona thanked him. Shura said his father was speechless after a single bite and that he was completely stunned. Roti said of course he was, since Chirona's bread was amazing. Chirona said she was honored but asked what exactly Shrisan's relationship with his majesty was. Shura said his father wanted as many people as possible to taste her baking and so this banquet was chosen as its debut. Chirona stammered. Shura casually said he guessed he had forgotten to mention that. Shura revealed that his father was the current king of the kingdom of Saldeus. Chirona and Roti were shocked. Chirona realized that meant Shura was the king's son. Roti said good catch. Shura gave his full name, Shrasan Arnold Remiel, and declared that he was the crown prince of the kingdom. Chirona and Roti were stunned. Chirona said that part had not come across at all. Shura apologized for keeping it from her, though he joked that his overwhelming royal aura could not really be hidden. Roti commented that having a big brother sounded fun. Kyle appeared and asked what was going on, saying they were being loud. Shrisan screamed. Kyle said of course it was Shrisan again. Shreeson yelled back, asking why Kyle was always right behind him and telling him not to sneak up on people. Kyle sighed. Shreeson protested that Kyle had called him an idiot and complained about the disrespect. Kyle apologized to Charona for the idiot pestering her. Shreeson shot back that the one calling people idiots was the real idiot. Charona said it was totally fine. Kyle pulled Charona toward him. Roti told Kyle not to bully Charona. Kyle realized he had grabbed her too hard and apologized. Charona said it was okay. Kyle noticed the envelope and recognized that the crest belonged to the royal family. He told Shreeson to explain himself. Shreeson said it was nothing complicated. He had invited Charona to the memorial banquet. It was a royal decree for Charona to bake the bread for it. Charona thought Kyle looked worried. She thought of course he was. Charona worried that being thrown into a royal banquet out of nowhere could go wrong and that she could drag Lord Kyle and everyone in the house down with her. Kyle said it was too soon, that Charona had only just begun building a life there, and that forcing something like this on her would be too much. Charona thought there was no way Lord Kyle would agree to this. Shreeson told Kyle he did not get a veto and that he had come there to ask Charona directly. Shreeson said the king had called Charona's bread that can change the world, and asked what the point was of keeping it all to Kyle. He pointed out there were still so many people in the world who had never had good bread. If Charona's bread could change a world where people thought tasteless loaves were normal, then why hold back? Charona reacted. Charona said she would like to go. Kyle was surprised. Charona said that if more people could taste her bread, that would make her truly happy. She said she had been baking bread in the house, and everyone who had eaten it had been so happy and that it reminded her how much she loved making bread. Kyle told Charona that if she truly wanted that, then he would not hold back his support. Charona was overjoyed and thanked him. Charona thanked Shreeson and said she would do her very best. Roti said she would do her best too. Charona got excited and said now they needed to figure out what bread to serve, listing off options. She apologized to Shreeson and Kyle and said she was running ahead. Roti noted that Charona was all flustered. Charona said there was so much to think about. Kyle asked Shreeson if the king had figured it out, meaning about Charona. Shreeson said of course the king had, since he was still the king even if he was the way he was. Kyle told Shreeson not to talk about a wise king like that. Shreeson said the king was just a doting father. Kyle asked if Charona knew about her connection to them and the king. Shreeson said he doubted Charona knew she was a princess yet. He said she would find out sooner or later, and that he suspected the king was planning some kind of surprise. Kyle asked if they were going to tell her the truth. Kyle thought about how Charona had lived her whole life thinking she was alone. Shreeson said Charona would be happy to know her family was alive. Kyle worried that when Charona found out they had left her at an orphanage and that the queen was gone, it would hurt her deeply. Shreeson told Kyle that Charona was not that fragile. Kyle was silent. Shreeson told Kyle that the queen's death was not his fault. Shreeson said Kyle was the one who had protected Charona when she was small and that the king and he were both grateful. He said Kyle was still protecting her now. As Kyle's cousin, Shreeson said he was proud of Kyle. Kyle asked who his brother was, seeming caught off guard. Shreeson asked what was wrong and if Kyle was too happy to speak. Shreeson said that even for Kyle, he was not handing Charona over that easily. Kyle was confused. Shreeson said that Charona was the adorable little sister he had finally got back and that he fully intended to spoil her rotten for a good long while. He told Kyle to beat him first, then he could beat the king. Kyle was shocked and asked what Shreeson was saying. Shreeson said he was heading back. Kyle yelled at him to hold it, calling him an idiot and saying that was treason. A mysterious man was hiding nearby watching. He noted Shreeson's name and recognized Charona as the infant who had slipped through their grasp during the invasion. He was surprised she had been hiding there all that time. The man said it was a good thing he had tailed the crown prince. He said he had to report this to the Suan emperor. He noted that the key to reviving the ancient recipes was that girl. Several weeks passed. Charona spent the time working in the kitchen, testing recipes with Roti and going over plans. She said that with both of them helping her, she had finally decided on the menu. She thanked them and said they had really saved her. Shitless told her to think nothing of it and said they had been learning skills and techniques by working at her side every day. Aimer said it was an honor for them as well and that being able to help made them happy. Charona thanked Chef Shitless and Aimer. Shitless asked what Charona was calling the bread she would be serving at the royal castle. Charona said she and Roti had come up with it together and that it was the best flavor she could make right now. She announced the bread she would be serving at the royal castle would be salt butter rolls. Charona, Kyle, and the others were traveling by carriage toward the royal castle. Charona looked out and was amazed by how huge the castle was. She apologized for getting a little carried away. Kyle reacted. Max told Charona it was fine, and that what happened on the road stayed on the road. He told her to just have fun and that this might be her last chance to really let loose. Kyle told Max not to say crap like that. Charona laughed nervously. Kyle explained who would be going to the royal castle. It would be him and Rector, and Max was coming too. Charona noted they were all coming with her. Kyle said that officially the invitation was just for him, but Max was coming as a guard and Rector was their mage and healer. Rector added that for safety's sake they needed dependable backup. Charona was relieved and said there was nothing to worry about. Kyle told Chirona not to worry and that he would do everything he could for her too. Chirona thanked him. Chirona thought that having everyone there really put her at ease. Max said they got to try Chirona's new bread too. Chirona eagerly agreed. Rhodey said she had worked super hard too. Max said he could not wait. Rector told Kyle not to overdo it. Kyle quietly said he would do his best. Rector noted his voice had gotten tiny. Chirona said she was really proud of this batch. Kyle said they were almost there. They arrived at the royal castle. Kyle knelt and said it had been a while. King Einsbark greeted Kyle and said it had been some time. The king told Chirona to raise her head, that there was no need to hide and that she had done well to come this far. Chirona nervously looked up. Chirona said his praise was far too generous. The king said he had heard from Shryson and that he had been looking forward to the bread she would be making. He told her there was no need to be nervous and to just do what she always did. Chirona stammered. The king called for Kaisark and ordered him to clear part of the kitchen for Chirona's use and to provide anything she needed immediately. Kaisark acknowledged the order. The king told them to call as many extra hands as they wanted. Chirona thanked him. The king told everyone to rest after their long journey. Kyle asked Chirona if she was okay. Chirona was nervous. Chirona panicked about whether she had done something rude. Kyle and Rector told her to relax and that she did great. The king went to his attendant Kaisark and asked if he had seen his daughter and whether she was ridiculously cute. Kaisark confirmed it. The king asked if he had maintained his dignity. Kaisark said barely. The next day, Kyle called out to Chirona. She greeted him and started to say good morning, but she was dazzled by his appearance. She thought she had been getting used to it lately, but that it was still too much. Kyle asked what was wrong. Chirona asked if he was feeling sick. Chirona quickly said she was fine and that there was nothing to worry about. Kyle asked how the preparations were going. Chirona said everything was all set. Chirona told Kyle that Rhodey was in the baking phase right now and that the bread would be ready soon. She said she really thought they had turned out amazing this time and asked him to look forward to it. Kyle smiled and said of course. Chirona remembered how she could not even use alchemy properly and was just dead weight. A knock came. Someone announced the banquet would begin shortly and asked Kyle to proceed to the reception hall. Chirona said she would need several trips to carry everything and that she would go back to prepping the bread. Kaisark appeared and said the king had ordered him to assist Chirona. He asked Kyle for permission to accompany her. Kyle told Kaisark he was counting on him. Chirona thanked him. Rhodey announced the bread was almost done baking. Kaisark was startled by Rhodey talking and called it an unusual magical tool. Chirona laughed and said Rhodey was actually magic. Rhodey declared they were baking at full power. Chirona said the bread smelled incredible and was baking perfectly. Rhodey announced they were done. Kaisark saw the salt butter rolls and said they were truly magnificent. He noted they looked perfectly baked right through the center. Chirona offered to let him try one since he was there, and said it was her way of saying thank you and that she wanted as many people as possible to taste them. Kaisark hesitated but then agreed. Kaisark took a bite and said he had never eaten anything so delicious and that so this was bread. Chirona was glad. She said she would be making plenty, enough for everyone in the castle. Kaisark said that as he thought, their country needed her gift as well. Suddenly there was a burst of energy. Kaisark grabbed Rhodey. Rhodey cried out. Chirona was shocked. Rhodey demanded to know what Kaisark was doing. The bread went flying everywhere. Kaisark tossed Rhodey aside. Rhodey's magic did not work against him. Kaisark remarked that Rhodey really was a weak familiar and said he had worried for nothing. Rhodey called out for Chirona. Kaisark was silent. He took Chirona and left. Chirona was gone. Max asked Rector if he did not feel something was off, saying the air felt tense. Rector asked what he meant. Someone asked why the bread still was not ready. Kyle heard someone call out his full name, Kalacia. Kyle rushed in and found bread scattered all over the floor. He asked what the hell had happened and where Chirona was. Shryson arrived and was shocked. Kyle found Rhodey on the floor and asked if she was okay. Rhodey was hurt. Kyle asked what on earth had happened to Chirona. Rhodey cried out for Chirona. Kyle was stunned. Kyle asked Rhodey if she remembered what happened. Rector used healing magic on Rhodey. Rhodey tried to explain. She said Chirona got zapped by the old guy and then Rhodey got hit too and then the man grabbed Chirona and they went off. Max said that told him absolutely nothing. Shryson concluded that Chirona had been taken by some man. Max asked by who and where. Kyle was silent. Shryson asked if Chirona was not in danger. Rhodey said Chirona was safe. She explained that she was born from Chirona, and that they were basically the same being, so she could tell right away if Chirona was hurt. Max called Rhodey a genius. Rhodey said she did not know about the old guy but that she could tell where Chirona was. Shryson asked if Rhodey could track her. Rhodey said she could. Shryson called out to Kyle and said they were going after Chirona now. He told Rector to support Rhodey and follow her lead. Max was told that if he determined they were enemies, he should not hold back. Kyle told them Chirona's safety came first and to not let their guard down. Max acknowledged the order. Kyle declared that no matter what, they were bringing Chirona back. He told them to move. Chirona woke up in an unfamiliar place. She saw cracked walls and asked where she was. Kaisark was there. Chirona tried to move her hands, but they were bound. Kaisark told her she was awake. Chirona asked who he was and immediately asked about Rodi. Kaisark said he had left the familiar behind and that it should not be seriously injured. Chirona asked where he was taking her. Kaisark told her to relax and said he was simply taking her to another country. He told her to behave and he would not hurt her. Kaisark said the bread from before was excellent. He said that when he learned that was what real bread tasted like, he wondered what they had all been eating their whole lives. Chirona said she still had no idea what he was talking about. Kaisark said that as a cook she must understand the urge to let people taste something truly good, and that they simply wanted to help her do that. Chirona said she did not understand, but that if he had hurt Rodi, she would never forgive him. Kaisark looked at Chirona and said it was her bloodline, noting she had her mother's face. Chirona was confused. Kaisark said the queen had fought herself half to death to protect Chirona, holding her ground against overwhelming odds. Chirona asked him about protecting the queen. Kaisark said her mother had died once trying to protect her. He told Chirona that she was Queen Axia's child, Chirona Manchuri Seldias, the rightful princess. Kaisark told Chirona that she was Queen Axia's child and the rightful princess of the kingdom of Seldias, Chirona Manchuri Seldias. Chirona was stunned and asked if she was a princess. Kaisark pointed to the scar on his eye and said it brought back memories. He explained that it was given to him by Chirona's mother in her final act of resistance. He called Queen Axia a woman of exceptional strength and said that a mother was never more dangerous than when she was protecting her child. Chirona asked if he had killed the queen. Chirona said it was too much to take in, so suddenly her, a princess. Even so, she told Kaisark that he had taken someone precious from the people she cared about. Kaisark smirked. "I'll never forgive you for what you've done," Chirona declared. Kaisark asked what she could possibly do now. He pointed out that from what he could see she had no talent other than baking bread, and asked if she planned to slip poison into the bread. Chirona clenched her fists and cried out that it was so frustrating. Kaisark was startled. Rodi came crashing through, crying out for Chirona. Chirona was shocked to see Rodi. Kaisark asked how Rodi had even found this place. Rodi declared that she was Chirona's contracted spirit and that they were two souls in one body, and that even through fire and water she would find her master. Chirona said she was so glad Rodi was safe. Kaisark dismissed Rodi as a mere insect. Rodi yelled that she was not an insect. Chirona agreed. Kaisark clicked his tongue. Chirona called out to Rodi and told her to activate magic time compression at maximum power output. Rodi agreed. The quick time compression ability activated. Kaisark laughed and asked what good that little spell would do. Chirona said every spell had its use. The ropes binding Chirona's hands rotted and crumbled apart. Kaisark was shocked and realized that Chirona had used time compression on the ropes to make them decay. Chirona told Rodi they were getting out of there. Rodi agreed. Kaisark grabbed Rodi. Rodi cried out. Chirona stopped. Kaisark told her not to move, saying she was not the type to run away and leave Rodi behind. Chirona admitted she did not have a choice. Kaisark told her she had better come back. Kyle appeared and told Kaisark that was enough. Chirona was stunned and called out to Kyle. Kaisark demanded to know why Kyle was there and called him scum. Kaisark swung at Kyle, but Kyle dodged. Rodi yelled that she was not an insect. Kaisark noted that Kyle was one fast bastard and wondered who he was. Max declared that he was an SS rank adventurer and asked if Kaisark had never heard of Thunderblade Cannon. Rodi said she had never heard of him either. Max said he still had a long way to go. Rector asked Chirona if she was alright. He noted that a battle axe was a disadvantage in a cramped place like this. Chirona was relieved to see both Rector and Max. Kyle told Kaisark that he was giving Chirona back and that Kaisark was coming with them to face the king. Rector apologized for being slow to realize where Chirona was. He told her he was just glad she was safe, and that Kyle had been incredibly worried about her too. Chirona noted that Kyle had been worried. Kyle asked Kaisark why he had targeted Chirona. Kaisark said that since Kyle was Chirona's employer, he surely understood they just wanted her recipes. Everyone wanted their people to eat good food. Kyle asked if Kaisark thought that justified hurting her. He said he was not handing Chirona over and that he was never letting her go again. Chirona was caught off guard. Kaisark admitted he was outnumbered. He warned them to remember that many nations would covet the girl who possessed those recipes, and that it could easily spark a war. Kyle said he would not let that happen. Kaisark said to see how things played out and threw Rodi at Kyle. Kyle caught Rodi. Kaisark escaped through a window. Max said Kaisark got away. Kyle checked on Rodi and said he was glad she was okay. Rodi called out for Chirona. Chirona thanked Kyle for saving her. She apologized for putting him through such a terrifying experience. She then told him that Kaisark had said she was Queen Axia's child. Kyle and Rector reacted. Chirona started to ask about her mother. Shreeson arrived using spatial magic, saying he had made it in time. He apologized for being late and explained that fixing coordinates for spatial magic took time. Shreeson said he was just glad Chirona was safe and called her his dear little sister. Chirona called him Mr. Shreeson. Shreeson said that he had figured everything would be fine with Kyle there. He mentioned that everyone was panicking because there was no bread to serve at the party. Chirona was surprised that Chryson had called her his little sister. Rector said he was worried about Chirona's stamina and was even more worried about her mental exhaustion. He suggested it might be better to cancel the bread this time. Chirona thought to herself that Kaisark's methods were wrong, but she understood how he felt. She also wanted everyone to eat delicious food. She remembered how she had always wanted to be useful to someone, and that this time she wanted to make the people right in front of her happy first. She said she could do it and asked them to please let her bake. Chryson praised her spirit and said that was just what he would expect from his little sister. Rhodey declared that with Chryson's special ultimate magic they could zip straight back to the royal castle and that Rhodey could use amazing magic too. Kyle said now was no time to compete. They returned to the royal castle kitchens. Chirona told Roti to go at full power. Max said they would help too and called on Rector. Roti agreed. Chryson told Kyle that he was an important guest and that a party was nothing without its guests. Kyle started to protest. Chryson told him to have a little faith in his sister and to go buy them some time. Kyle agreed. Kyle told Chirona they were counting on her. Chirona agreed. The recipe for the day was salt butter rolls. The first step was to prepare the dough. Chirona told Rhodey they were seriously short on time and asked if she could do the time compression again. Rhodey transformed into a proofing oven. Rhodey used time compression and the first rise was completed instantly. Chryson was amazed. The second step was to divide the dough and roll it into long ropes. Chryson asked if he just needed to divide it. He told them to leave it to him. Max told Chirona not to call him Thunderblade Cannon out loud because it sounded cringe now. Chirona was impressed by Max's skill with the dough. The third step was to use a rolling pin to flatten the pieces. Chirona explained they should take the divided dough and roll each piece into a long rope, then use the rolling pin to roll them out even wider. The fourth step was to wrap butter inside the flattened dough, placing about 10 grams of butter on top, then rolling the dough up with the butter inside. Rector said even he could help with that. Chirona noted Rector's precision magic. Rector said he worked with medicine after all and was good at dividing things exactly. After rolling, they placed the seam side down and gave it a firm press. Rhodey started the second rise with time compression again. Rhodey was getting tired. Chirona noted the dough still puffed up a lot. Lastly, Chirona sprinkled rock salt over the proofed dough. She explained that the salt on top brought out the dough's natural sweetness. Rector said it looked like a croissant, but noted the bake and texture were different. Chirona said it was a pretty simple bread and that she did not eat it much in her previous life, but because it was simple, the true flavor of the bread really shined. She said she wanted people to eat the bread and think that bread could be truly delicious. That was what she wanted everyone to feel. Chirona told Rhodey to start baking. Rhodey transformed and entered baking mode. Chirona put her hands together and wished for the bread to come out delicious, hoping that everyone who ate it would end up with a smile on their face. Chryson watched her from the doorway. The bread came out of the oven. Chirona announced that the salt butter rolls were done. At the banquet hall, the guests were murmuring. One guest said they had been told there would be delicious bread today and wondered if it was just a rumor. Chryson looked out at the crowd. Kyle said it would be fine. Chryson reminded Kyle that he was the one who told them to trust Chirona and the others. Chirona, Rhodey, Max, and Rector arrived. Chirona thanked everyone for waiting. Chirona announced that today she would be serving salt butter rolls. She presented the bread. King Einsbark said it was the main dish they had all been waiting for, and told everyone to dig in while the rolls were still warm. The guest remarked on the incredible smell and said so that was what bread was supposed to smell like. Rhodey asked if she should help hand the bread out to everyone. Chryson said he needed to keep bringing more and that he could not hand them out fast enough. He noted there were so many people. Rhodey told Chirona to leave it to her and mentioned the infinite storage shelf, the one that stored items inside a silver tool. Rhodey told Chirona to use the infinite storage shelf skill. Chirona agreed. Chirona called out to Rhodey to activate the infinite storage shelf. Rhodey did so. A silver box appeared and opened, and bread poured out of it. The guests were shocked. One of them said it was incredible and that he did not know it could be used like that. Rhodey boasted that there was nothing her magic could not do. The king was about to eat the bread. Chirona watched nervously, wondering how he would react. She thought to herself that the bread was made by a little girl like her. Rhodey told Chirona it would be fine and that her bread was absolutely delicious. Chirona asked if it was really that good. The king took a bite and said it was delicious. Chirona's heart pounded. The king said that everything he thought he knew about bread was wrong, and that it would be a crime to keep it to himself. He told everyone to eat before it cooled down. The guests dug in. The guests said the bread was so soft that the butter melted on their tongues, and that it was unbelievably good. They could not believe it was bread. Chirona thought back on how she used to be nothing but dead weight, and that Kyle had saved her from that. Chirona thought about how she had baked so many loaves. She had wanted, just once, to be useful to someone. Not just for the people in the manor, but for even more people. She wanted to make even more people happy, and now she was standing in the exact moment she used to dream about. Rhodey said that Chirona's bread was the best in the world. Chirona smiled and corrected Rhodey, saying it was not quite right, it was their bread, hers and Rhodey's. The king addressed everyone and said that this was real bread. He said the food culture lost during the famine of gluttonous depletion. This was their chance to reclaim it. He held up the bread and declared that the first step was this bread. The kingdom of Seldius would spare no effort in supporting Chirona Manchuri's bread making. He asked everyone to lend her their strength as well. Someone from the crowd declared that House Baker would be honored to stand with her. Others said to count them in too. Chirona and Rhodey were overwhelmed. People rushed up asking how she made the dough and begging her to join their kitchen. Kyle watched from the side. He told Chirona she did well. He told her he meant what he had said earlier. The kingdom of Seldius would give its full support to her bread making. Chirona thanked him. The king said that this bread he wished he could have let Axia taste it. Chirona called out to him. The king told her he was sure her mother was enjoying it in the skies above. He said that her mother had once given her life to protect Chirona and that Chirona was more than worthy of Axia's name, the rightful princess. Chirona thought about the word mother and wanted to ask if the king was her father, but she decided it was not the right time and that it was not something she could confess just yet. Shrisen called out to Chirona and told her she should relax and enjoy the rest of the party. He said he wanted to enjoy the party with her and asked if that was not okay. Chirona was flustered and said she could not possibly do that. Roti noticed Chirona was red and said she had a fever. Shrisen said she was fine and that it was the good kind of heat. Chirona wondered what to do since it was her first time at a party and she did not even know where to stand. She noticed a crowd of people gathered nearby. She realized Kyle was completely surrounded by young ladies. Roti said she knew what that was and called it being super popular. Chirona noted that Kyle was a noble who looked like that, so of course the young ladies would not leave him alone. She thought about the portrait she had seen and realized she did not really know anything about Kyle. Chirona stepped out onto a balcony and said the night air felt nice. Kyle found her and asked if she was there and if she was okay. Chirona thought that Kyle was always worrying about her. She asked if he was alright since he had been surrounded by so many people and all those greetings. Kyle said he was still just a feudal lord and that even if he was not good at it, socializing came with the job. He added that he was not exactly good at it though. Chirona noticed Kyle's expression and thought that anyone who saw that face would know he had someone wonderful in his life. She said to herself that of course he would have someone. Rhodey was puzzled. Chirona suddenly told Kyle that he should explain things properly. Kyle was confused. Chirona said she knew she should not have peeked and apologized, and that if it was a secret she was sorry for that too. Kyle asked what she was talking about. Rhodey thought that Kyle had someone he cared deeply about. Chirona blurted out that Kyle loved someone so much he had even had a portrait made of her. Kyle stared blankly. Rhodey told Kyle not to make Chirona cry. Chirona started tearing up. Kyle said he had no idea what was going on and asked what was wrong. Kyle asked if she was feeling better. Chirona apologized. She explained that when she had brought bread to his study before, she saw a portrait of a woman. Kyle realized which one she meant. Kyle told Chirona that the woman in the portrait was Queen Axia, her mother. Chirona was stunned. Kyle said the portrait was important to him. Yes, but the woman was someone he admired. He told Chirona she looked just like her and asked if she had not noticed. Rhodey agreed that Chirona really did look like the woman in the portrait. Chirona repeated that Queen Axia was her mother. Kyle said she was a very noble, very strong person and that he still admired that strength to this day. Chirona started to say something. Kyle told her he would rather she did not misunderstand. Talking with the ladies tonight was simply part of his duty as a lord to maintain good relations. He said it was not like that. He also said there was something he had forgotten to say. Chirona listened closely. Kyle thanked Chirona and told her that thanks to her, this country truly could change. Chirona smiled. Shrisen used his spatial magic to transport them. Chirona thought that as they worked to end the famine of gluttonous depletion, it felt like a new door had opened. She said she was looking forward to seeing what came next. A few days after the events at the royal castle, Chirona was back at the manor feeling overwhelmed. She recalled the king's declaration that the kingdom of Seldius would spare no effort in supporting her bread making. She groaned and said she just did not know what to do. Rhodey suggested she should make bread. Chirona agreed but was still troubled. Mamie arrived and said it sounded like things had turned into something pretty big. Chirona said that even if they told her to spread it, she did not know how. She said she could teach people how to make bread all day long, but the scale was so big she could not think of a way to handle it. Mamie commented that the king really did say outrageous things. Chirona noted that in her old world they had email and the web and all kinds of tools and that it had been so convenient. Chirona panicked and asked if she would be punished if she did not show results. Kyle appeared and told her she was just looking too far ahead. He said he doubted it would go that far and reminded her that she was the king's real daughter. He suggested that just like with Shetlas and Amer, she should start with the people close to her. He said the king did not expect it to spread across the whole kingdom overnight. Chirona was relieved. Chirona got an idea and exclaimed that she could hold a bread class like a vocational school. Kyle smiled. A few days later, Chirona stood before a group and nervously thanked everyone for coming. She said it was her first time teaching bread making and that she was sure she would mess up but would do her best. She thanked them for making time despite their busy schedules. Kyle, wearing a cooking outfit, told Rhodey to call her master today. Rhodey agreed. Chirona thought about how it had come to this and recalled the day Kyle had told her she could use the manor kitchen for her bread class. Kyle had asked if something was wrong. Chirona explained that with Shetlas and Amer they were already cooks, so she did not have to think too hard about how to teach them. But this time she wanted even people who did not usually cook to be able to make it. She said that in her previous life she was more often the one being taught, so she did not know if she could suddenly teach well. Kyle told her he would be her first student and that she should not be so tense. He said he had always wanted to try baking bread at least once and that this was the perfect chance. That brought them to the present day. Chirona thought Kyle was so kind. She noticed his face and saw it was the expression of someone who genuinely wanted to bake bread. She told everyone to start fresh. She announced that today's bread was chocolate chip melon pan. Kyle repeated the word melon pan. Chirona asked if he did not like it. Kyle said that was not it and that he was just surprised by the name. He asked if there was melon in it, like the fruit, and how it was put into bread. Chirona said it would be faster to just make it and told them to get started. Kyle said smashing the chocolate was fun. Roti noted he was surprisingly pushy. Chirona remarked that it was not chocolate cream, which was unusual. She explained the crushed chocolate bars would act as their chocolate chips. She showed the ingredients: cake flour, butter, eggs, baking powder, granulated sugar, and chocolate bars. Chirona explained they would first make the cookie dough that went on top of the bread. Kyle was confused by the idea of cookies on top of bread and said melon pan grew more mysterious by the second. He said it was starting to feel like a riddle. The first step was to mix room temperature butter with sugar and eggs. Chirona told Kyle to add room temperature eggs into the butter and sugar mixture in 2 batches. She said that part did not need to be exact. Kyle asked how much butter was needed. Chirona said what he had was right. The second step was to sift together the cake flour and baking powder and mix them in. Kyle said there was more to it than he thought. He was totally absorbed. He asked what sifting meant. Chirona explained that it meant running the dry ingredients through a sieve so there were no lumps. The third step was to add the chocolate chips before the flour was fully incorporated and mixed. Kyle asked if they should add them now and whether they would melt. Chirona told him not to worry and that they would hold their shape. The fourth step was to divide the dough evenly and roll it out with a rolling pin. Chirona told Kyle he was really good at this. Kyle was flustered and said she was praising him like he was a child. Chirona quickly apologized and asked if that was rude. Kyle asked if he should roll the dough slowly with his palm. Chirona confirmed he was doing it exactly right and told him he was doing great. Kyle paused. He said it was not rude, it was refreshing. Roti noted the room temperature just went up. The fifth step was to place chocolate chips into the mixed bread dough. Kyle was shocked they were putting chips in the dough too. Chirona told him to be generous since they were there. Kyle wondered if that many would really bake properly and hoped the texture would stay. Once the chips were added, Chirona told him to knead the dough well. The sixth step was the first proof. Chirona asked Roti to help. Roti activated the proofer in rapid mode. The first proof was completed. Kyle noted the dough rose quite a bit. Chirona told Kyle to divide the dough into the same number as the cookie dough pieces and roll each into a ball. She then covered them with a damp cloth and said it was now bench time. Kyle asked what bench time was. Chirona explained it was the time you let the dough rest before shaping, and that it helped the dough stretch more smoothly. The seventh step was to attach the cookie dough to the bread dough. Chirona told Kyle to use the cooling spell to chill the cookie dough. Then wrap it around the bread dough and press them firmly together. The eighth step was to sprinkle granulated sugar on top. Chirona then scored the top in a crisscross pattern. She told Kyle it was starting to look like melon pan. The ninth step was the second proof. Chirona explained the key was to keep the temperature low so the chocolate did not melt. She said it took a while so they would use time shortening. Roti handled it. The 10th step was to bake. Chirona and Kyle watched the oven together. The oven dinged and Chirona announced they were done. Kyle looked at the baked melon pan and realized the crisscross pattern they had cut earlier was the reason it was called melon pan. He said so that was melon pan. Chirona declared the chocolate chip melon pan was ready. Chirona said that since they had gone to all that trouble, they should eat them fresh from the oven. She went to get drinks. A stranger with long hair appeared, remarking that it smelled delicious. Kyle and Chirona both demanded to know who the stranger was. The stranger said that was harsh and that it was fair from their perspective though. Kyle asked if the stranger was working for the Soen Empire. Chirona repeated the name Soen. The stranger denied being a shady agent. Kyle said they would not just believe that. Roti suddenly declared that the person was not suspicious at all and that it was okay. Chirona and Kyle were confused by Roti's reaction. The stranger said he was really hungry and had followed the smell of something delicious. He pointed to the melon pan and asked if he could have one. Roti called out excitedly. Kyle was alarmed and told Chirona she could not just give bread to some sketchy stranger. Chirona said it was alright because Roti said he was okay. She thought Roti was acting strange but noted that it did not feel like Roti was on guard. Chirona told the stranger to go ahead. The stranger looked at the melon pan and commented on its curious shape. He took a bite and said it was good, then added that it was just what he would expect from a reincarnator. Chirona was shocked and demanded to know how he knew that. The stranger said names did not matter, but if he had to put it in terms they could understand, he was something like a messenger of the gods. Kyle asked who he was again, and what business a messenger of the gods could possibly have there. The stranger asked if they knew how the foul bread of famine came to be. He said it was not just a famine, it was a punishment the gods had bestowed upon the world. Long ago there was an age when people never stopped fighting one another. The gods got fed up and took away what mattered most: food. When the gods stripped food from the world, the land withered, and many humans died. Only then did the conflicts finally subside, and over many long years people slowly reclaimed food. Kyle asked if that was what caused the Great Famine. The stranger confirmed it. He said bread's recipes had never fully returned because there was no one who could bring them back. He told Chirona that she was the one who would restore bread. Chirona was stunned. The stranger presented her with a book, saying it was the world's cookbook. He said he had shaped it like a book so it was easier to understand. Chirona noticed the book had blank pages. The stranger explained that her job was to fill those pages. He said that when she baked bread, her points went up, and as she baked and gained experience, those pages would be filled in through the alchemy of happiness. He said he had figured things would never get moving at the current rate, so he came personally to explain. He also admitted he wanted to try the bread. Kyle noted he could tell that part had been badly explained on the stranger's end. Rhodey did not care. The stranger said he was now certain that Charona really did have the power to restore the true recipes. He told Rhodey to help her master, and told Rhodey she knew what she was supposed to do. Rhodey nervously agreed. The stranger said that was enough for the first quest and told Chirona he was counting on her, calling her a reincarnator. He then vanished. Chirona tried to stop him, but he was gone. She wondered aloud if she was a reincarnator chosen because she happened to know how to bake bread, and if that was why she was here and now to learn the truth of the foul bread of famine. Kyle thought about it. Rhodey said that could not be the only reason, and that Chirona had been chosen because her wish to make everyone happy was so strong. Chirona thought about her feelings and said that was right, she wanted to make everyone smile. She said it was a huge responsibility, but if she could do it with her own strength, then she had to.